And Governor Hutchinson joins me now. Governor, it's good to see you.
Good to be with you, Chuck. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's a different backdrop. Is that a New Hampshire backdrop that I have you on already?
No, this is a Bentonville, Arkansas backdrop.
Oh, it's Bentonville, Arkansas. Okay, that's what it is. It's not the normal Little Rock background. Let me start with what's happening with your neighbors there to the east in Tennessee. Good look or bad look for the Republican Party right now?
Well, I would, one, I'm not going to get in and judge what's happening in the state legislature in Tennessee. We have a General Assembly in Arkansas, and while I was governor, you know, they governed their own conduct. They had to make tough decisions, and so that's a legislative matter, and that's in Tennessee. But from the bigger picture, though, it just reflects that it's really important that we try to bridge gaps, to work together. I mean, here you've got a lot of emotion coming out of the Nashville school shooting, which was such a tragedy. There's emotion there. You've got a legislative session going on. I know that whenever we had the George Floyd protest in Arkansas and across the nation, it turned to violence. We stopped the violence. Then I brought the protest leaders in, put them on a task force with some law enforcement, and said, let's see if we can't figure out some things together. And it was a very productive thing that led to action. So I think listening to each other is critically important, and trying to find common ground where we can. That's, to me, how you try to get over this divide.
So it sounds like what you think is the Tennessee leadership went too far in expelling these members for, I mean, again, they're advocating, whatever you think of their position, they're caring about people who got hurt and died. Like, that's what makes this seem so callous, Governor, is that, you know, how dare you have an emotional outburst reacting to somebody who died? You know, it's inhumane.
Well, I haven't seen the videotapes. I haven't seen the protests and how that might have interrupted the decorum or violated the rules of the Senate. So I just can't judge that.
Why not? I mean, you're running to be president of the United States, Governor. I understand if you're still governor of Arkansas. And I get it. You know, look, hey, that's their territory. You're running to be leader of the entire Republican Party. You're running to set a tone. And look, I commend you for the tone you said. Look, and you're right. You didn't have the same issues that other governors had because you've not been pugilistic. You don't look at the other side and think, well, I'm going to just mute them. But that's my point here. You're also, though, not addressing the issue either. You kind of want to have to sit back. Why?
Well, because I don't think that, you know, every national leader needs to comment on what's happening in Tennessee. You know, if it becomes a national issue and concern, yes, but I view this as something that is a Tennessee legislative issue. It's obviously a very serious thing anytime you take the elected representative away from the people who voted for them. It's a most serious consequence that you can have. I just can't judge right now. If I had to, I'll look at all the tapes, and if at the right time, I might make a judgment on it, but I think it's inappropriate for me to second guess what happened in Tennessee at this point.
Look, one of the ways that we've framed this is the fact that this felt sadly inevitable. It happened to be Tennessee, but I think we know we've got this partisan gap that has gotten wider and wider, and a lot of it has to do with gerrymandering. I mean, your state is one of the examples. You know, Trump won the state with 62% of the vote. I believe you won with about 63, 64%. Basically, the state is a 65-35 split, okay, generally, give or take. The State House is 82% Republican. More, half of them don't even get an opponent. Have we gone? Do you think this has gone too far? That we're getting legislatures that are essentially over-indexed to one party and therefore not accountable to the people?
Well, I would agree with you on the point that we've tried to protect incumbents to a great extent. We've tried to make red districts more red, blue districts more blue. Both sides have played that game because, and here's the challenge, that everybody would rather worry about the general election and having a safe run there versus having a contest in the primary. And so you're trying to make it more red, and then that really changes your ability to work together, because you're constantly appealing more to the base versus worrying about getting votes in a general election. That impacts us nationally. I think from a Republican standpoint, we need to have a nominee in 2024 that can appeal to independents and suburban voters if you're going to win. So there is some national application there.
Look, you're actually, it's exactly, I believe, for instance, that the party's disconnect on abortion has to do with the fact that most of the people making this decision don't get challenged from the other side. There's only one point of view. If you only worry about Republican primary, it's how pro-life are you, right? And you're not even speaking to the middle. Do you think that has why it looks like the Republicans look so out of touch on this issue?
Well, I think the abortion question is really a matter of conviction and sincere beliefs on both sides. And so that's sometimes hard to bridge the divide naturally. But whenever you look at other issues, sure, the first requirement is listen, meet together, hold to your principles, but there's always some common ground that you can try to find. And so we need to do more of that versus less. But the pro-life issue is something that it's going to take more time to change from the strong pro-life position that the Republicans have. Yeah. It's sincerely held by myself and others.
And that gets me to something here. A politician is often fond of saying, I don't pay attention to the polls, on one hand. On the other hand, you are responsible to what the people want. Abortion is a perfect example. You have a 60 to 65% majority that wants essentially Roe v. Wade, some form of that. It's only 36% of all Republicans. If you're president of the United States, how responsive do you think you should be to what 65% of the country wants versus maybe what 65% of your own party wants?
Well, we all do study polls, and it is a relevant conversation because it helps you to guide as to what Americans are thinking. But, on this issue, you come at it from different points of view, and it's just going to take time for our country to sort through it. Over the last 40 years, our country has become more pro-life because of education, because of science. The debate now has centered on really two things. One, the Supreme Court said it's up to the states, and our states vary. You've got blue states that have one viewpoint and red states that have a different, more conservative viewpoint on the unborn child issue and the protections there. And the other one are the exceptions. These are going to be ongoing debates within the framework of what the Supreme Court has given us, that it's up to the states, and there's some debate about whether you ought to have a national standard. I believe that the states is what we fought for years, that it ought to come back to them. I think that's helpful for our states to be able to make that determination, even though they might be different. It reflects the will of the people on the most serious health care issues.
Governor Hutchinson, there's a lot to talk about throughout this campaign. One of the things about you I know is you're not afraid to say yes and talk about these issues on the air. I look forward to covering your campaign, sir, and good luck and be safe on the trail, will you?
All right. Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.